Hey everyone, well it's time to get the track painted on the small O-gauge switching layout, and the way I'm going to do that is just to use some rattle can spray paint. In particular, I'm going to use flat earth brown and flat khaki, both from Rustoleum, but similar colors from other paint manufacturers would work just as well. The main thing is to make sure it's a flat paint, and I'm using the darker color for the rails, and I'm just dusting the ties with the lighter color from straight above, so there is a little bit of a lightening of those ties relative to the rails themselves. Now, the one thing to be careful of when you paint any kind of track is to make sure you don't get paint on important electrical connection areas. So in particular, that would be the turnouts. So I want to make sure that on all these turnouts, the area of the points that contact the actual stock rails here are going to be basically protected from the paints. And so when they are up against the rail there, you will have electrical power going through them because you'll have a good electrical connection. If paint gets on there, you're just not. Now, the parts of the turnouts where I can't get paint on, I am still going to make darker. I am going to use some of this Neolube, which I use a lot in my N-scale projects on Kato turnouts and things like that. This is electrically conductive. It's basically just graphite and alcohol together. So whatever you put this on will turn black, basically, but it will still be electrically conductive. So it's not going to cause any issues with power going through the turnout points. So this is what I'll use for all the areas like the frogs and the points of the turnouts that I want to turn darker, but not get any paint on. So I'm going to go ahead and mask everything off where I don't want to get paint on, and then come back and do the painting. Okay, so everything is masked off now. I have all the turnout points covered up with tape, as well as all the control areas and anything where there's going to be electrical contact. And I have all the surrounding area around the track covered up in tape as well. And that's just so after I finish painting, I can pull the tape off and you'll be able to clearly see what's painted and not. I didn't want the track to blend right in with the baseboard. And so this way there'll be a distinct color difference between the track and the baseboard after I pull the tape off. And so that's the only reason I'm doing that, is just for the video, so you can see things a little more clearly. Okay, so I started off taking the flat earth brown, just spraying all of the track areas, both the ties and the rails, getting them from both sides. And I had to make a couple passes to try to get everything covered completely. A lot of times after the first pass there'd be random little spots that didn't get paint on them, so it took a couple passes to get everything covered as best as I could. Then I came back with the flat khaki and just sprayed everything kind of from the top down, so I was pretty much aimed straight at the ties, and this way I didn't get very much of it on the sides of the rails, and so kind of lightened the tie color to be a little bit less than what the sides of the rail were, and gave it a little bit more of a weathered look. With that done, I took some isopropyl alcohol wipes. Now I just take a couple wipes wrapped around my fingertips and just work my way across all of the rails to get as much of the paint off the tops of the rails as I could. So kind of a slow, tedious process. But you can see here the outside rails are easy to tell when they're clean because they turn shiny again. So you have a good idea that you have all the paint off. But that middle rail being dark, it's not quite obvious when you've gotten the paint off of it. And so I had to make a couple passes to try to make sure I got all the paint off that middle rail. And even after that, I wasn't sure that I had gotten everything off completely because it did blend in so well with the actual original color of that middle rail. So after I finished cleaning the track with the alcohol wipes, I came back and just peeled up all the tape. And you can see how everything looks here after all the painting. At this point, what I had to do is go back to all the turnouts, take the Neolube, and basically go through and paint that on all of the points, all the areas where the points would touch the stock rails, and then part of the frog areas where I had gotten too much of the paint off of the interior. Just trying to make everything look a little bit darker so it doesn't stand out as much. The bright shiny rail obviously is not very realistic, and so having that Neolube on there does help a lot. And it is electrically conductive, and so you don't really have to worry about getting it on the tops of the rails, but I did still wipe it off because it looks kind of weird to have some rail tops black and then other areas shiny. Okay, so all the initial track painting is done. It's not complete. I am going to go through next and do all the ballasting. I'm just actually, I think, going to end up just using Woodland Scenic Cinders. I kind of like how it looks, and so that's what I'm going to go ahead and do. I'm going to do just the ballasting right along the track itself. Not in this video, that'll be the next one. And then I'm going to come through and do just weathering powders on the ties and on top of the ballast, and do some rust along the spikes and stuff like that, and just try to make it look, as good as I can to the point that I care. And so that's going to be the next project after getting the ballasting done and everything else, is just get that last painting and weathering done on the track. But I want to get the ballast done first, because when I go through and do the weathering powders, like do some of the rust along the bottom of the rail where the spikes are and everything, this way it'll kind of like leach into the ballast itself like you would normally see. And so I think it'll just work better if I do it that way. I want the ballast just to look kind of dirty and, you know, rust stains and all that kind of stuff. But I kind of need to make sure everything runs. So what we're going to do now is just do some quick runs through all the tracks, all the turnouts, with the shorter of the two locomotives that I have, and make sure I don't have any areas I need to fix in terms of cleaning the track better. It's not so much of a problem on the outer rails, but that black center rail, it's not visually easy to tell if it's dirty because it's dark anyway. And so that's kind of the one part I'm more worried about. You know, I might have spots where I still have some of that brown paint on there and I just can't tell that it's there very easily. So we'll see what happens here. Let's go ahead, do a little run here, see if everything works okay or not, and then we'll wrap it up. All right, so I'll just do some back and forth here. I am just using the Lionel Chief app on my iPad, and I'll just use that to control everything like I normally do. And yeah, all we're going to do is just run at a slow speed every single track and make sure it actually works. You can see here with this Lionel SW1 locomotive not having any trouble at all negotiating any of the turnouts, any of the track areas, the crossing, everything worked really smoothly. So I was really happy. I didn't think it'd work this well, but it just worked really pretty much like it did before I had painted anything. So overall, very happy with the performance. Well, everything worked really well. I think that's just a testament to the fact that with O-gauge you have just a lot of surface area with the track, you know, and the wheels on the locomotive and everything. So there's just a lot of contact surface there, and there's more weight, so you get better, you know, contact pressure as well, which helps. But I think, you know, little bits of dirt aren't going to be as big of an impact as they are like an N scale. So, but yeah, it worked surprisingly well. I thought I'd get at least a few stutters, but nothing. So yeah, so we're good. I'll go ahead and progress now on to doing some of the ballasting in the next video, and do the track weathering with that as well, and see how we can make this look. So overall, just this simple spray paint made the track look a lot better, I think. Everything is dulled down. The rails really kind of disappear a little bit more in terms of the size, and I think once I get everything ballasted, get some weathering done on them, it's going to look really nice, you know, for three-rail track. So I'm not going to go over the top on this. I could do a lot more work than, you know, I'm going to end up doing, but at least to the point that I care about, I think it's going to look pretty good. So yeah, this simple rattle can spray paint makes the track look quite a bit more realistic as it is. And again, with some additional weathering, it should look, I think, pretty good. So anyway, in the next video, I'll go ahead and get that done, and then we'll be working on basically concrete pad areas and road areas, that kind of stuff, for the rest of the layout. Probably do some scenery after that and all the areas that aren't going to have structures. And then I'll be starting on the structures, but again, that's going to take me months to do because they're big, and it's not like putting together a little N-scale structure. You got a lot of physical size of stuff to do. And so that's going to take me a while, but that'll be a fun project. I'm looking forward to getting going on that at some point later this summer. But anyway, I also have to get all these Atlas switch controllers replaced with some Caboose Industry ground throws, and I just don't know where those are at. So I bought them, and they're somewhere here. I put them somewhere where I wouldn't forget where they were, and I forgot where they were. So, you know, as it is. But I need to get the garage cleaned out anyway. It's been a while. And so I'll try to find all that and then get those installed as soon as I can find them. But anyway, that's all for now, and thanks for watching. Bye.